Welcome to Ask the Tech Coach, brought to you by the TeacherCast Educational Network. If you are in charge of professional development and looking to build an innovative digital learning experience, this is the podcast for you. Join us each week as we uncover strategies that tech coaches are using to drive their digital transformations one classroom at a time. And now for your host, with over 2 decades of experience working with tech coaches and ed tech companies from all around the world, Jeff Bradbury.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the TeacherCast Educational Network. My name is Jeff Bradbury. Thank you so much for joining us today and making TeacherCast your home for professional development. This is Ask the Tech Coach podcast, episode number 178. Today, we are talking all about the amazing FETC conference that just came out. We had one of our amazing co-hosts, Vincent's today. I'm going to start this whole damn thing over because I don't know where I'm going with this.
I was wondering that myself.
I'm so off right now. I go to start and I hear the ice machine going off and I'm like, ooh, squirrel. Yeah. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the TeacherCast Educational Network. My name is Jeff Bradbury. Thank you so much for joining us today and making TeacherCast your home for professional development. This is Ask the Tech Coach podcast, episode number 178. Today, we're going to be talking about setting up a daytime professional development program. That's right. Today, we're going to be helping you guys figure out how to create daytime PD in an environment where your teachers are getting out of the class for an extended period of time, 1 hour, 2 hours, maybe even 3 hours, and coming to do classes with you. This is something that we did a few years ago in my current position. I am here to talk all about the great stuff that we're doing, from how do you set it up, how do you get administrator buy-in, choosing the right topics. We've got a lot of stuff together. This is a topic that came out of our TeacherCast Instructional Coaches Network, and we would love to have you guys be a part of that. Before we get into all of that, I want to bring on my co-host today, Sue Vincent. How are you today? Welcome to the show.
I am great. Great to be back after a wonderful trip to the FETC conference last week in person.
That is right. While the Connecticut area people were digging out of a snowstorm, you were down in Florida, weren't you?
Yes, I was, but not in the sunshine, unfortunately. It was cloudy and cold down there, too. I think the weather just hit the whole United States and just slammed us.
How was the conference? I miss it. I've been to FETC a few times. The building is huge, isn't it?
It is, but really, it was just awesome to be back in person, talking to people face to face. My coworkers and my boss were asking me how it was, and they were like, did you learn anything new and exciting? And it was just exciting. There wasn't anything greatly new and like, oh, you need to try this next new gadget or this next great tool. It was just exciting to be back together, talk about what we've been through the last 2 years, talk about where we're going. And yes, there were a few new tools and, cool Google updates and this and that, and hearing from vendors in the exhibits. But just to be back to have those conversations face to face with people you've been following and people you haven't met, and just to be out there and talking educational technology again out loud.
What were those sessions that attracted you? Where did you go to? What was interesting?
Well, of course, one of the most popular ones at FETC is always the Tech Share Live keynote. Leslie Fisher, Kathy Schrock, Adam Bello, Hall Davison, those guys always do a great job just kind of showing what's out there in all the different categories, whether it be AR and VR, the gadgets, all of that. And I always attend a lot of Leslie Fisher's sessions. She does a great job of talking about the tools you can use tomorrow. Went to a great update from John Sowash, who we've talked to here before. Lots of the Google updates, some of the Google Classroom updates. It's always kind of the running topic now of what is coming, but it's not here yet, that Google has kind of said has been coming for a year. So, we went over some of those things, but, just it wasn't a lot of what you would have thought of, oh, how do we move forward in hybrid teaching? It wasn't even a lot of that. There was some, and it was just sharing, this has worked for us, but it was just the conversation and just seeing people again, I think was the big.
Would you say the conference was packed? I mean, it's the largest indoor venue like on the planet almost, right? Like it's the conference is just huge. But I mean, would you say that it was highly attended?
I think so. Kind of better than I thought. It wasn't huge. I mean, you could tell in the keynote it wasn't a packed house like it would normally be, but it was, for the time that we're living in and one of the first big conferences in education to be back in person, it was well attended and people were genuinely happy to be there.
And, so the question I want to ask you is, how was Disney? How was Universal? How was the attractions? What did you do when you were down in Florida?
So I had two coworkers with me, and we, enjoyed some awesome food. One of my favorite Mexican restaurants at City Walk at Universal. We didn't buy park tickets, but, we took an Uber to Disney Springs and got on the Disney buses and, found the monorail station, and we just took the monorail ride around at fireworks time. So, we got in the little perks without having to purchase the park tickets and spend the money there. So, we enjoyed ourselves and just had fun being together and being away for a while.
That is awesome. I am so glad that you had a good time. It was great seeing the pictures and following you on Twitter and all those great things. And I know many of the coaches that are in our Instructional Coaches Network went down. And if you did go down, we'd love to hear from you. You can always reach out to us at Ask the Tech Coach. And, we did open up a few weeks ago a brand new adventure in instructional coaching. We've got a new Facebook group, and we actually have a LinkedIn group that are doing extremely well. We've almost got 200 or so plus coaches in our Facebook group, and that is growing constantly. We want to give a shout out to everybody in there. So each and every week we come up with a topic and we try to bring conversations around, but it's not just about those topics. I love the fact that this instructional coaching group is turning into a family. I love that it's turning into places where people are actually able to go, reach out, get the help and support. And when you've got so many instructional coaches, you're always bound to get the help that you need. If you guys are looking for more information, you can head on over to AskTheTechCoach.com. Sign on up today. It is free. Professional Development Network. Again, one's on LinkedIn. We try to keep that a little bit more professional. But still, on every week, we've got topics and conversation starters. And of course, on Facebook, we've got a nice little party going on as well. Last week, Sue, while you were away, we actually ran our first Tech Coach Live session, or I guess I should be calling it Instructional Coach Live. Yeah. Either way, coaching live session where we talked all about data dashboards. And that was a really fun time. We had about
I read some awesome feedback from people who attended. I hated to miss it, but I was having fun in Florida, but I heard it went great. I saw some great feedback in the comments.
It was amazing. We had about 10 people or so show up, talk all about dashboards. Tuesday of last week, I did an ISTE training all on dashboards. We had 500 or so people all sign up, about almost 300 actually attend. Want to say thank you everybody out there who did that. And you know what? There's a lot of great instructional coaching things coming up. Speaking of these professional development groups, speaking of these professional development presentations, much like FETC and ISTE, the question, Sue, that always comes up is, how do we do this internal? How do coaches band together to create internal PDs, PD sessions, etc.? And I'm not talking about, meeting teachers in the classroom. And really, Sue, we're not talking about ed camps. Like, there's a lot of groups that decide, hey, we're going to run an ed camp and we'll get people to volunteer. I'm talking today about getting your district to buy in to the creation of a daytime professional development program. I think this is an important topic, and I'm looking forward to talking to you today all about it.
Absolutely. And this can be done in so many different ways. And I know you've had some success, and we're going to talk about that. And, I've seen it done so many different ways through early release of the students and bringing in the teachers that way, or having a 1 day a month in service for the teachers. But, you have to start somewhere to make it fully successful. And again, I'm anxious to hear your experience. So, where does a coach get started in getting this daytime professional development to even get off the ground?
When I was coaching in my previous district, we were fortunate enough that we had an administration that saw the value in what we were doing and put stock into the concept of a daytime PD. And I know you just had mentioned, kids go home, we do PD. That's not what we're looking at today.
Right.
We were the Cardinals, or the district is the Cardinals. And what I was allowed to create was a K-12 daytime PD program. We called it Cardinal University. And essentially, through the help of central office administration, we created an environment where teachers could sign up for a class or a number of classes, and the district would give them release time. They would get substitutes for them, so that way they can come and spend the day with me. And we actually ran it from, I think it was like 9 to noon, and then we did like noon to 3. So they were full sessions. These were hands-on, immersive, let's do this kind of sessions. And it was awesome. But to answer your question, it really comes down to having a relationship with central office and saying, look, this is what your strategic plan says you want to be. This is how we're going to get there. We've talked a lot on this show and on all the Ask the Tech Coach podcasts about creating an educational technology integration plan. How do we do that? And that's easier said than done. That's why we spend a lot of time talking about it here. But, I was one coach in an entire district, K-12, just me. And if you're listening to this and you're kind of saying, oh, I'm like that too, or maybe you're one coach in 2 buildings or 3 buildings or 7 buildings like we met last week, we need to figure out how do you get the largest amount of people in front of you at once. And that doesn't mean Monday afternoon faculty meetings. That doesn't mean Zoom with the entire, those are nice, but those are not as functional as you need it. We came up with an ed tech integration plan that says me, our coach, is going to be working one-to-one with teachers. That's in the classroom. One to small group, right? That is your grade level, department meetings, etc. But also one to medium-sized, larger groups. And that was getting teachers together with a common interest or a common goal and running PDs. If I remember correctly, we did them every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So in any given week, I was running 6 to 7, whatever the number was, full 2.5-hour sessions. And it was absolutely awesome. I was so much having fun during all of that stuff. So I'm looking forward to kind of dissecting what that is. But, we called it Cardinal University. We got the domain name and put everything together. And it was a lot of fun. And I know those teachers really appreciated it.
So let's get this question out of the way before we move forward on how we made this happen. So you said they got subs for the teachers. So how do you approach the question now of, oh, we don't have enough subs in our district. What are we going to do now?
If I was doing this now, I might not be able to do it as everybody leaves their buildings. We did it in central office. This was 6-7 years ago, something like that, right? So everybody left their buildings, drove to central office. We did it in like a big conference room. If I was doing this now, I might do this in a building. So that way you're not necessarily getting 2.5 hours or 3 hours with somebody. Maybe you only are doing a 1 hour, but maybe you could set it up so that way you do have hour-long things. And instead of having a prep, you go to Cardinal class or whatever you would want to call it for that. So there are ways, and let's face it, there are subs. Maybe you can't get 15 subs in a day. Maybe you're capped. I know we had a cap of 2 to 3 people per building. And again, that was 6-7 years ago. So, you figure at that point in time, you're still getting subs. Modern times are modern times. But look, if we want to do professional development and we're investing in a coaching program, we can make this happen.
Absolutely. There's ways to make it happen.
There's always ways to make this happen.
Awesome point. Yeah.
During the day too, right?
Yeah. And don't let the times we're living in prevent you from putting together a program.
It's about having the vision. It's about aligning the vision with the goals. This is why we talk a lot about the EdTech integration plan. And I'm so looking forward to in the next few weeks, basically, unveiling all the work that I've been doing for my intern project. It's going to be up on Ask the Tech Coach, going to be free. Everyone's going to be able to get a chance to take a look at it. And But, it does start with planning from the top down. What do you want, right? It's about helping everybody meet their goals. Your superintendent has goals.
Yes.
Your principals have goals. Well, I can't meet 100 teachers so that way you can hit your goal. But I can do 5 or 6 sessions, and I can bring in today all the science teachers for an hour during the day, and we can take care of that. Or I can bring in 5th grade teachers from across the district, and we're all going to work on a certain thing. So a lot of it does come down to, hey, if you have these goals, I'm the guy to help you figure this out. Let me help you fix your goals. That's different than saying, hi, I'm Jeff, and I want to run a PD program. You got to align it to goals.
And as you say that, then say I'm a new coach, I'm new at this, or I've not done this daytime program yet. How am I going to figure out what to offer these teachers? I've got the buy-in from my administrators.
Yeah.
Now, what am I going to offer these teachers?
You got to make it interesting. And, like we just said, number one, there has to be goals from administration that they want. And a lot of times it's, administration says, I want my teachers teaching this or teaching this way. And, a session could be project-based learning. A session could be how to use Google Sites with our new curriculum. So you get all like teachers together, right? They all come out as a group. That could be one thing. But there is a functional interest in surveying your staff to see what they want. And a survey could be a big Google form. A survey could easily be, a piece of graph paper, right? Here's a bunch of applications. Move the icon of the app into the space that you want. I'm saying this a little bit wrong. If you go to Ask the Tech Coach, there's a whole blog post, and we're going to link to everything here in episode 178. But I have put together an entire Google site with everything we're going to talk about today. All the directions, all the recommendations, all the manipulatives, all the forms, everything we're talking about today can be yours for free. All you got to do is come on over and sign up for our newsletter and be a part of the Tech Coaches program, and it will come to your email box. So having all of these surveys, right? Because on one hand, nobody wants to set up and do all the time for a PD program that nobody wants to come to. And the nice thing about what we did was it was voluntary, right? People wanted to come out, and some of them came out for a half day. Some of them came out for a whole day. Sometimes the administrator bought one substitute and, covered class A in the morning and class B in the afternoon. And we were able to rotate around. But even though we were looking at how am I serving the district and the district needs, a lot of it was also how am I serving the teacher and the teacher needs. That's where you do the sessions on Flipgrid and Nearpod and WeVideo and infographics. So you're still meeting the needs of the district, but on one hand, you're doing it from a curricular point of view, and the other hand, you're creating it from a tech point of view. I knew as the one creating this, I was still hitting the goal no matter what session the person came to.
Yes.
So you might think you're coming to a project-based learning, but you're really coming to a Google Sites class. Or you might think you're coming to a Google Sites class, but you're really coming to a project. There's ways to market things is all I'm saying.
Absolutely. And that's the strategy of, as you get experience in that coaching realm, of melding the two together, the pedagogical side and the tool side, and bringing them together. And, as we're speaking here, I'm looking over and I've seen these before because Jeff has shared them with me, just these survey and self-assessment templates. One of them is the diagram of just the 4 spaces on a grid and moving the icon of the certain tech tools to your comfort level. That is an awesome visualization. So I encourage you to check these out over on Ask the Tech Coach.
I tend not to say, do you want to learn about Flipgrid? But I will say, are you interested in using video? And then from there, really, you can run a video course, you can run a Flipgrid course, you can run a WeVideo course, you could run a bringing video into social studies, bringing video into math. So many different ways to essentially run similar courses. And for me, being the only person putting all this together, it was difficult coming up with, 30 different sessions. But if you realize that 30 different sessions was really like 10, right? Slightly different, but 10, it didn't seem too bad.
Absolutely. So now we've got our sessions. Now we need to market it and get the teachers there. So what was your strategy in making all that happen?
Well, I got this model for daytime PD from another district that we paid to go to, right? And for many years, the district was paying for me to go to these PD sessions so I could learn, and paying for other people to go to these PD sessions. And that was part of the marketing, is we no longer have to pay a couple $100 a session for Jeff to go, but we'll pay a bunch of substitutes so Jeff can teach them. That was awesome. So we used Google Sites to hold all the information, much like you'd go to the ISTE conference and you'd see the website. I mean, we created Cardinal University as a Google site. Also, we created a course menu, and it was just like a little flip book, but we use Google Slides, which is great. And again, if you sign up for the blog post here, we give you all the templates here. You can just take what I have and run with it. Nowadays, slides are great. You can also use Canva. It's probably a more popular option these days. But the bottom line is, it was something that showed all of the different course offerings. And just like we were talking about earlier, the course book had 30 or 40 pages to it, but some of the sections were curricular based and some of the sections were tech based. So I would have the same session in different parts of the book. So that way, in case, you're not want to flip through everything, I know I want to learn about video. It's over in the video section, but I might want to learn about flipped classroom. There's a video, you get the idea, right? Like,
very good.
You're going to find it somewhere. But it's all marketing. It's all based off of, my district wants me, as an example, to teach video. Great. How many different ways can I do that?
Absolutely. So we've got them registered, and it's time to run the workshop. So, you're there, you've got them there for 2.5 hours. They have this sub. How do you keep them engaged? You're not just standing up there lecturing them. What are you going to do with them?
I started off with a basic 5 or 6 slide deck every time. The same slide deck, right? Welcome. This is the course. This is what we're looking to do. And then we had our norms. This is how things work. Because many people, keep in mind, K-12, they're used to boring PD. They're used to sit, get, see, do kind of things. So the norm was, look, whatever happens in this room stays in this room. Whatever you want to take, great. And the biggest norm is, tell a friend, right? Like, share your experiences. Help me get more people involved. So at the beginning of every course, it was really just, the same 5 minutes. Here's what you're about to experience. We can do this together, and the learning doesn't stop here. I'm going to call you tomorrow, right? We'll talk about the ending at the end of this here. But, then from there, really, it was, okay, here's a couple ideas. Let's play. Let's do. I mean, I always had some kind of an icebreaker. Sometimes I would bring in Lego and they would build things. Sometimes I would bring in some drawing page, whatever it was. I wanted to get them to form a group. Then once we formed a family, it was game on. And we ran, for an hour, 2 hours or whatever. It was always paced, and it was always fun to see them trying new things. And even though I might have a whole bunch of social studies teachers, I might give them a science thing to do because I want to get them thinking outside of their comfort zone. And then you bring the conversation back into, okay, how does this work for you? And I know they appreciate it, because I had so many people come back and come back and come back and come back. I remember even getting in trouble a couple of times because, so-and-so was always wanting to come out. That was awesome. Right? Like, there's your stamp of, hey, this is, you're doing a good job.
Yes, absolutely. And that's so important. Keeping them engaged and keeping them challenged. That's something currently in some math professional development my coworker and I are working with, is sometimes we need to make them feel that challenge, because that's what the students are going to feel in the classroom. So that's a huge, important strategy there. So let's circle back around. You said we come back to it. So after the workshop is over, the next day, you need to start that feedback and follow-up process.
At the end of the sessions, there was a few different carrots, as you would say. Now, one of the other things that I didn't mention so far is these sessions were also set up for my SLO, my student learning objective. In other words, the teachers were my students. At the beginning of each of the classes, I gave them a quick 2 to 3 question Google form. What do you know about this topic? Rate yourself 1 to 5. That was like the, hi, thanks for being here. We're going to get started in 10 minutes. Please fill this out, right? And at the end of the course was a series of surveys. And of course, the first one was, what have you learned about this course, right? So that was your pre-session data and your post-session data. The day after the session, I would send them a feedback form. And I would have to do that manually just because that's the only way to do things. But, I started getting into using Gmail to, email tomorrow. They called it Boomerang way back then.
Yes. Now.
It was a long time ago, right? Yeah, they didn't have those delayed send features, but the everything was designed for, thank you for being here. I hope you learned something. What can I do different? Do you want to work with me? When can I see you? And we even went as far as, after the survey was over, instead of the little thank you that says, hey, you filled out the form, good job, it was, and here's my booking form. And here's my booking form. So the entire thing really was a mousetrap to say, yes, we're investing in you to come out, learn something, but the reciprocant is, and Jeff needs to come into your classroom and to help you continue this. It doesn't make any sense if you're not passing the coaching knowledge into the classroom. So when done right, the entire process was, how do we get the most amount of people in front of our coach, and how do we turnkey that so that way on the off days, the coach is completely in the classrooms, in those buildings, being immersed in supporting teachers. It was awesome.
That is just, I don't want to use the word perfect, but I'm going to use the word perfect. That is just a perfect scenario. And for you guys out there who are just starting out and you're listening, take these and make them work for you in your district. Find some buy-in, whether it's even from a building administrator, and do a pull-out program if you don't have enough subs, 2 or 3 at a time, and find a way to make this work for you, because it's important. And like Jeff said, it's investing in them, ultimately investing in the students and the coaching program, all coming together as one. Talk about relationship building. That's huge.
And it's all about relationship building. For me, standing up in front of a group of people, that's my home. I had so much fun with that. Walking into a classroom sometimes is intimidating. You're in the battle, if you will, right? You're in the middle of all this. It's sometimes hard to be yourself. For me, when I'm in front of that stage, I love it. I come alive. Right?
Yes.
I
would agree. Me too.
Even the other day, I walked into kindergarten. I did 4 kindergartens within 2 days. I was a 7-year-old. I love doing that stuff. And maybe you're the same way out there. You're like, hey, I love working with teachers. That's why I'm a coach. How can I do this? Where's the next step for me? Guys, I got to tell you, if you head on over to our blog post here over at Ask the Tech Coach, episode number 178, there is a little button at the bottom that says download our free templates today. I will gladly send you the Google site that's got a dozen or so pages. Everything that we're talking about today is in there. All of the templates, all the Google forms, everything is set up. And on the side, you've got my philosophy of teaching. So it's not just here's the form, thanks. It's here's the form and why is the form? What was the form? What was the reasoning behind the form? How does the form work? What do you do at the data collection? Because so that really is what it came down to at the end, right? Me meeting with administration, completing the circle and saying, look, here are your goals. Your goal was to have everybody do video. I did this number of sessions with these specific teachers. Now it's your job. When you walk into the classroom, are you seeing it?
Yes.
And that gives the administrator the ability to go, hey, Sue, I saw you went out. I paid for you to go out, but I'm not seeing it in the classroom. Mm-hmm. Any questions? Do you need to work with Jeff? What can I do here? Because I put the investment into you.
Yes.
And really, that is on one other side, that is a coaching cycle.
Absolutely. And that's getting that hard data and putting feet on it and making it go, whether it's working or whether it's not working, it gives that administrator the chance to either, hey, we need to correct this, or, pat on the back, great job, for the teacher and the coach.
What's the next step, right? Really, it was rinse and repeat. Every now and then I would send out a different survey to the teachers who had already come to me and saying, hey, what else do you need? Right? It's easy to run the same sessions over and over again because not everyone's going to get into the session. And it was difficult having people say, I want to take your session, but I can't, right? Like either my building is capped or, we're testing this week. And it was difficult, right? You're trying to create a PD program that's good, but you don't realize sometimes, the elementary school is doing standardized testing. Don't put a PD day then.
Yes.
And sometimes you don't realize that until it's too late. Or you walk into a building, not that I'm saying this the right way, but you walk into a building and everyone's like, dude, you didn't know we had this on the calendar. And I'm like, oops, right? But the point is you're out there, you're trying, you're putting things together, you're being different. And really, you're here to say, what do we want our students to know? How do we get our teachers do that? Like, how do we give our teachers the experience to try that? And again, that could be anything from, starting with Lego. Like I'm a Lego master educator. We came in for a couple of those sessions. I dumped brick on top of everybody and said, build something. Great. The next step was, let's do stop motion animation. Okay, let's re-video and edit that. And you just keep building and building and building. And the next thing you know, it's okay, we're having fun and here we go. The next step after that is it's not just for teachers. How do we allow our administrative assistants and office secretaries to do that training also? Right? Because it's not just about the Flipgrid. It's how do we get the secretaries to come and learn about spreadsheets? Mm-hmm. How do we get them to learn about using Chrome, bookmark, like the basic stuff that we take advantage of and we take for granted? Not every person at a desk knows how to use bookmarks and spreadsheets and formulas and functions and paragraph styles and making a Google survey. I mean, so what came out of that was we created a half-day, 2 half-day Google workshops, right? Google workshops for admin assistants, part 1 and part 2. And part 1 was basically docs and forms, right? Like, because everybody wants to make here's a survey, go make. Well, what are you going to do with it? So the beginning was like Chrome, Drive, Docs, Forms, and the second half was basically spreadsheets. And what can you do with it? And everybody walked away excited because how often are the secretaries trained? How often are people saying, what do you need? And as a coach, now I got to really get a chance to know all of our office staff. Anytime I walked in the building, I was golden. It was great.
Yes,
right?
They love that.
And now they're asking you all the questions. Hey, show me this, show me that, show me this. And that's how you start to earn a building is you have the opportunity to do those experiences and stuff like that. So, when done right, you redefine professional learning. You create a culture, right? Like that's also what this is about is you are creating a culture of positive professional learning and everybody has a good time with it. And if done right, if you want to get into badges, you can. We started to do badges. Not that it meant anything, but, I gave out a little sticker or a little icon or something. And if you put it on your email signature, great. If you don't, that's certainly fine too. But, we created badges and said, hey, you get your Flipgrid badge or something like that. Cool.
Makes
right?
it fun.
It makes it fun, right? I could never get a principal to give up their parking space for a day, but that's all right. But the point is you're having a good time. You're building a system, you're building trust, and you are building that's what Sue is here for. She's not the light bulb person. She's the Flipgrid person.
Yes.
And that just makes things a lot more funner and a lot more gooder. And more funner is always more gooder.
Absolutely. This is just good stuff that we've talked about during this episode. And, it kind of has motivated me a little bit to get back there and get something going again. So,
but it starts with the conversations, right? Absolutely. Dear Mr. Administrator, Mr. and Mrs. Administrator, what are your goals? So, guys, I hope you've enjoyed this episode. I've enjoyed immensely kind of driving down memory lane here. If you're looking into more of this, I am happy to talk to you. One of the things that came out of last week's ISTE session was many coaches reaching out and saying, Jeff, do you have a minute? And this week I've been meeting with coaches in the evening, during the day, and what can I do to support you? How can I help you in your districts? How can Sue and I help out your districts? So if that means joining us for our instructional coaches networks, either on Facebook or LinkedIn, great. If that means booking us for, half an hour-long session at the end of the day, would love to do that too. Would love to meet you guys. We are here for you guys. Ask the Tech Coach comes out every single Monday, and we are excited to be a part of your professional development network and be a part of everything that you guys are doing in your coaching. I do not want to leave today, Sue, without giving a shout out to somebody. Do you mind if I read a little email that came in today?
Sure, please do.
I'm not going to give the name, and I'm only reading this because it really means a lot. And Sue doesn't realize I'm going to do this, but basically the email says, hey, Jeff, I attended your ISTE webinar that you facilitated last week and thoroughly enjoyed the information you presented. Basically, all caps, you changed my life. End caps. After the webinar, I immediately created a coaching interaction Google form and began using it the same day to document my interactions with my teachers. I was pleasantly surprised at how much time I saved completing the form. Additionally, I was thrilled at all the pie charts and also at the other programs that were created to visually represent the allocation of my time. And so there's a lot more than that, basically saying thank you for all that. So I don't get a chance to toot horns here a lot. I kind of don't do that, but for that person, if that person's listening to the show and that person I know does listen to the show, thank you. That absolutely made my day. And if any of you guys have ever listened to the show and said, hey, that's pretty cool, reach out, say hi. Would love to meet you. Would love to work with you. And who knows, maybe you can go on the monorail with Sue next year at FETC.
Absolutely.
Sue, there's a lot more stuff coming up now that we're in February here. A lot new shows. We're going to be talking about how can coaches really participate in their community, right? I'm working on a blog post right now of how can coaches participate in new teacher orientation or new employee orientation based off of some of the things I've done this year in my district. We're also creating things of how do you include your coaches into community events, parent universities, lots of those are coming out. We also just released a blog post that's been getting a lot of traction actually on LinkedIn on student tech teams. So we have a great show that we're trying to get taken care of for that. I'd actually like to see if anybody's interested in that one. If you do have a student tech team, we would love to have you on the show and discuss all of that. So lots of great stuff coming out here as I wrap up my internship project for my admin certificate. Sue, the days are getting colder, but as we come into the summertime, I'll be starting my doctoral program. That's kind of scary, but all I can say, there's going to be a lot more coaching content coming up.
Absolutely. Definitely a daunting task, but we're all behind you and ready for support.
And speaking about support, what's going on these days at Tech Imaginations?
Well, I've been home on some remote learning days because of the weather, so I put out 2 videos on the day that we're recording. So check out Susan Vincent's Tech Imaginations over on YouTube and learn about Google Smart Chips and how to make your own Wordle.
I keep hearing that. What is a Wordle?
Well, it's not what us old folks think it is when we think of a word cloud. It is a word game online that you just 5-letter word. You start with 5-letter word and it will let you know if you have letters in the right place. And
I don't get it. I see the Facebook thing. Anyway, that's another podcast. We'll talk about that later. I hope you guys have had an enjoyable time here. And please, if you like this show, hit that like and subscribe button. Share this with your colleagues. We would love to have you guys a part of the TeacherCast Instructional Coaches Network. And on behalf of Sue and everybody here in the TeacherCast Educational Network, my name is Jeff Bradbury, reminding you guys to keep up the great work in your classrooms and continue sharing your passions with your students.
You've been listening to Ask the Tech Coach, hosted by Jeff Bradbury of the TeacherCast Educational Network. Please reach out to the show with all of your questions on Twitter at AskTheTechCoach or online at www.askthetechcoach.com. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss any future episodes. And please take a moment to write a review in the App Store.